Good morning, everyone. Michael Allen and Tim Tickle here to talk about lease accounting day two processes. Your question may be, what is a lease accounting day two process? Day two refers to post-adoption for a client. What's really important for our clients? If you think holistically, they need to sustain that compliance. There are a lot of factors that can take them off their track in their journey to remain compliant. And that's what we're here to talk about today. A couple of questions, Tim. First, after adopting, what can a company expect to be the biggest challenge in sustaining compliance with the new accounting standard?
Good question, Michael. I think this is one that kind of has been born out of experience. Having worked with a number of the public entities that adopted the standard, I think the biggest challenge was their lack of foresight initially in determining, how they are going to process and procure leases in the post-adoption world. So, making sure that there are internal controls and well thought out processes to ensure that when leases modify or new leases are entered into, that they are identified and timely communicated to the finance and accounting group in order to update the lease accounting package that they've chosen to implement. I think that to us has been the biggest challenge in just making sure that the clients understand the importance of that activity.
Now, from an overall process standpoint around the day two compliance, this doesn't certainly just pertain to the accounting department, right?
No, obviously it's going to extend out into many different facets of your business. Typically we are working with procurement groups, and obviously they are in the process of identifying and contracting on a daily basis assets that may be used by the business. And so, in that context, we would need to ensure that they understand the requirement to communicate any changes to existing leases. But more importantly, I think is this concept of embedded leases where, they're going to have to, be the gatekeeper for these contracts that maybe don't say lease or rent anywhere on them. They are going to be the gatekeeper to identify, which contracts have the existing characteristics of an embedded lease, and then ensure that somebody from finance and accounting is involved. So that's just one area of cross functionality. Another area would be the incremental borrowing rate component of the process that typically involves Treasury, and at a minimum, they're going to be responsible for deriving the initial adoption rates that are used by the company. But more importantly, through over time, they're going to be required to reevaluate and assess the rates prospectively with this new standard. So, there's another aspect of cross-functionality. Corporate real estate groups that may be responsible for large portfolios of real estate leases by the corporation, they're going to be impacted, and you're going to have to reach out and touch them and make sure that they're aware of roles and responsibilities in the day two.
So certainly as a part of their sustained compliance initiative, companies not only have to be concerned with the accounting side, but also the ongoing lease administration. What types of offerings are out there in the marketplace that are making it easier for organizations?
Well, I think this is one, again, that over time has been really, really evolving. I think, traditionally when we first were looking at the lease accounting standards, the model was to procure inexpensive software, to implement that software, to pay subscription fees over time, and basically then build out your internal organization to perform all of the lease administration. What we're seeing now in the market is somewhat of a hybrid and even a morphing to a pure service model where some organizations maybe have invested in the software and they actually have that in place, but they don't want to invest in the time and energy and the people and the HR that's associated with maintaining additional employees to administer their lease accounting platform. So third party Providers like RGP actually have built out managed service offerings where they actually have centers of excellence to actually run your lease accounting software. That would be one, kind of flexible model. And then, as I mentioned, the second one that's evolving is this concept of lease accounting as a service, where the client and the company is not responsible for procuring any software anymore. They're simply paying a monthly fee to a third-party vendor like RGP to actually perform all of the lease administration on the same platforms that they would, typically see in market. So in our center of excellence at RGP, we operate, a lease accounting as a service process where we actually manage the portfolios of clients on our platforms and provide them back the monthly requirements for journal entries, reconciliations, and reports. So I think the model is continuing to evolve, and the good news is that is a benefit to the corporations and the organizations that are looking at adopting the new standards, in that they don't have to, necessarily think that there's only one way to do this.
So let's dig into that just a little bit more, because a company may be thinking, hey, I purchased a platform 3 years ago, and now my day two has become more complicated. And I'm really thinking about maybe I switch to a different platform or maybe a different service. How hard will that be for my organization? Because the initial implementation was very hard.
Well, I think the good news is that it's not nearly as complicated. Obviously, you still have to go through the data migration exercise, but because this is a relatively common occurrence, the mapping between systems is relatively simple in that, you're extracting data from one system into an upload template for a secondary system. Additionally, what you don't have is the added complexity of trying to find all the data elements and abstract all the data elements manually. We do leverage the kind of data mapping exercise that I just described in setting up new accounting platforms and or taking over the administration of their lease accounting platform. And lastly, all of the decisions and all of the completeness work that maybe was done during the adoption, all of those are not necessarily in play for kind of these post-transition, platform changes. So, again, you take out a significant component of the original adoption headaches, and it becomes purely a data exercise to migrate that data from one platform to the other, make sure the new accounting platform is configured correctly, but it can be done anywhere from 6 to 8 weeks and relatively quick and painless.
That sounds great. Thank you, Tim, for your time today.